It was the bromance of the century, the improbable union of the world's richest man with the world's most powerful.
That's 24-karat gold.
But all that glitters is not gold, and yet no one could have predicted a breakup as fast, as public, and as ugly as this.
I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
It was this public trashing of Musk in the White House yesterday that lit the fuse for the spectacular blow-up to come.
Elon and I had a great relationship. I don't know if we're well anymore. I was surprised.
Trump was furious that Musk had publicly criticised his big, beautiful bill as an abomination that would bankrupt America. But Musk was watching on in real time and hit back immediately. Without me, Trump would have lost the election. Such ingratitude. The president then hit back on his own social media platform. Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, and he just went crazy. And then came the threat. The easiest way to save money is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. To which Musk quickly replied, "Go ahead, make my day."
The bromance is over.
The alliance between the world's richest man and the world's most powerful, Donald Trump, is imploding right now in real time before our very eyes.
The news networks could hardly believe what was unfolding, but Musk was only getting started. Time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. It was a jaw-dropping allegation that Musk compounded by sharing video of Trump with the deceased sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Musk provided no evidence for his allegation, and there is none, but the accusation was nonetheless stunning. The Republicans on the Hill were quick to dismiss it.
It's just another accusation, another shiny object. There'll be another wreck on the interstate next week.
And are you not shocked by the allegations that he's in the Epstein files?
No, I don't give a shit about that.
He's accusing him, though, of being in the Epstein files.
Okay.
It's more than a billionaire spat, isn't it? Isn't this potentially dangerous for Donald Trump?
Look, you've heard some unbelievable things said on both sides. If he accused him on Epstein, what do the facts say? If it is, we're going to see everything, just like with John Kennedy murder. You bring everything out.
For the Democrats, the Schadenfreude was only too visible.
It was inevitable. We knew this was going to happen. This was like forecast that this would be something like the brick of a Macbeth play. You know, it's all these people that are power hungry, some fishing for power, for influence.
I suppose it was in the stars. Everybody was predicting it when it first began. You've got two gentlemen with gargantuan egos and both appearing to suffer from malignant narcissistic personality disorder. And they basically converged around a common platform of plunder and pillage of the American people.
Hasn't lasted very long, this loving.
I don't know that any of these things last very long. There'll be probably something tomorrow that'll get people all upset too.
As the spat played out, shares in Tesla plunged as investors feared a feud with Trump would inevitably hurt Musk's business empire, and it might. While Musk is hoping to derail the president's mega spending bill and is threatening to use his cash to hurt Republicans in next year's midterm elections. It's all a far cry from this. When the two men stood shoulder to shoulder outside the White House, showing off Musk's Teslas just 3 months ago. Now, the car Trump bought in support of his first buddy, a lonely symbol of their spectacular billionaire bust-up.
So now, what becomes of the broken-hearted? Their social media posts might look flippant, but with such enormous wealth and power, the feeds of Donald Trump and Elon Musk are really inconsequential. Or as one commentator put it, I'm just so glad that one of these men has the nuclear codes and the other has all our personal data. So what consequences could there now be in Washington and indeed in Silicon Valley? Here's Kieran Woodley.
That's into space. Come here. Take over, Elijah.
He gave him and his campaign hundreds of millions to win the election. He gave him a seat at the table. He took a chainsaw to government waste. He gave him a golden key in thanks. But was this relationship, now disintegrating like a SpaceX rocket, always doomed to failure?
You have the president of the free world, the richest guy on earth, one of the smartest guys on earth. Conflicts, they're kind of predictable, aren't they?
Elon Musk was never really a true MAGA follower, a billionaire whose companies rely on global trade, a close relationship with China, and the electric vehicle revolution.
We will drill, baby, drill.
And all that goes against a tariff-loving nationalist movement that is all about oil and gas. That's why Steve Bannon, one of Trump's longtime supporters, has always accused Musk of being an opportunist.
They're not populists. You know, I tease Elon all the time. If I could turn him from a techno-feudalist globalist to a populist nationalist, we could make some progress here.
While the MAGA world rejoices, what will happen to the other tech billionaires who lined up to attend the inauguration?
I'm sure if we were in the boardrooms or in the private conversations with the tech lords today, they are extremely nervous about this fight and beginning to understand that there are fundamental elements of the MAGA movement that are not in sympathy with with the future they imagine.
That nervousness will depend on whether Trump hurts Musk, using the powers of the government to not just roll back electric vehicle subsidies, but perhaps even cut other federal contracts with Musk's SpaceX company. All this coming at a time when Musk is already feeling the economic and political pressure.
He's taken a series of hits and defeats. Doge is a failure. The Tesla brand has been deeply hurt both domestically and internationally by his fervent support for MAGA. So I think it's probably an accumulation of defeats that made him wake up one morning and say, wow, I'm in a good deal of trouble.
If the president holds the most cards, can Musk direct his chainsaw at Trump and pose his own threat? Because he claims that his nearly $300 million in last year's election is the reason why the Republicans now control all three branches of government. And with President Trump facing tricky midterm elections next year, could a prolonged breakup lead to Musk causing Trump an electoral headache?
I can tell you that congressional Republicans are getting anxious about this. Elon Musk has a lot of money. He spent nearly $300 million to help Trump get elected. For a lot less, he could be influential when it comes to congressional elections. And some of these Republicans are wondering, is Elon actually going to come and spend money against me if I vote for this bill? And $1 million in a tough congressional district goes a very long way.
Musk did plow millions into a Wisconsin Supreme Court race early this year, and he lost. And that will give him pause. But both men know that if their bromance was a wild ride, their breakup will have just as many twists and turns. The Republican Party and the American people are holding their breath ahead of the next move.
Well, the US political consultant Frank Luntz joins me now from Oxford. Frank, it's great to have you back on the programme. Why did this escalate so quickly and so publicly, do you think?
Because they're so well known. These are two individuals that is known by everyone who's watching this show. We've known that Elon Musk is brilliant. As one of your commentators said, we know that Donald Trump is the most powerful political person in the world. And I don't know of any time since Franklin Roosevelt issues with some of the industrialists in 1933, 1934. You have to go back almost 100 years for this situation to replicate itself. And that was before social media. That was before cable news. So you've got the technology, you've got the interest from the public. You've got so much money involved, so much politics. People are paying attention.
But in terms of the substance of their relationship, I guess you could say a breakup was inevitable because, you know, Musk has the biggest factory for Teslas in China. He didn't like the tariffs. You know, the MAGA crowd around Steve Bannon never liked Musk. They thought he was too snooty and too rich. Was this an inevitable breakup given their conflicts of interest?
I'll tell you, inevitable for Steve Bannon to say that maybe Elon Musk should be deported. It was not inevitable for Musk to say that Donald Trump was with the Epstein crowd, that these are the most vicious individuals that are involved in this. And just as it grew to something so powerful and so meaningful, the relationship to come apart, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. I've been using the analogy of this is King Kong versus Godzilla. This reminds me of a football match in your country, how dramatic it can be when the fans of both sides go to war against each other. We're not done yet. We've only just started this conflict.
Okay, well, one of the things coming up is, of course, the vote in the US Senate on the big, beautiful budget. This is what they ostensibly fell out over. Is Musk in a position now, having withdrawn his support from the president and his money no longer being activated against Trump critics, is he in a position to torpedo this budget, and what consequences would that have?
The consequence is that this is the seminal legislation. The tax cuts, the budget cuts, how we're going to deal with Medicaid, all the issues are put into this one piece of legislation. And if Donald Trump fails to pass it, that's his justification for Republicans in the midterm election. So this is number one on everyone's radar. But number two is also how this impacts the elections in 2026. And the fact is, when Elon Musk was funding the efforts against the Trump opponents, it caused everyone to fold, caused everyone to compromise because they did not want to be primary. Now it's wide open. Now anything can happen in 2026. I don't believe that Elon's break with Donald Trump will torpedo legislation. I do believe that we're going to see a new level of independence among Republicans in the House and the Senate, which may be a problem for Donald Trump, but it's certainly going to have an impact on where we go from here.
So without the threat of Musk and his money, some of these Republicans who are very unhappy about this budget and a few other things like tariffs might rediscover that they have a spine.
Actually, I got to be candid with you, and the answer is yes. That is the question. I know what they say in private. I know how they actually feel. And the pressure now is not going to be to cave. The pressure is going to be, if you haven't cut enough spending, there'll be more members who will say, I will vote no. If they haven't cut taxes far enough, more members saying, I will vote no. This could not come at a worse time for President Trump, but in the end, there's an issue here over the relationship between business and politics. I think it was an unholy relationship. It wasn't good for democracy. It wasn't good for economic freedom. What we need is more people involved, more issues, more legislation. I think this is absolutely essential for the future of the country. So I don't necessarily think this is a bad thing.
Okay, Frank Luntz, thank you very much indeed. Well, Matthew Bartlett is a Republican strategist and former State Department appointee for Trump's first term in office. He joins me now from Washington. Matthew, thanks for coming on the program. I mean, there was this extraordinary coalition, wasn't there, all the way from Steve Bannon and the mega MAGA crowd to Elon Musk, a South African-born billionaire who came to America on a student visa, who believed that tariffs were nonsense, whose biggest factories in China, et cetera, et cetera. Is that coalition now kaput?
I'm not sure if it's kaput, but there is a massive fracture in it right now. Matt, you're correct. Donald Trump came to power in 2016 largely on a white working class vote. He then returned to power in 2024 with that same base, expanded into vast minority groups and working class parts of the population, combined with this high-tech bro led in part by Elon Musk. That is now all torn asunder as the personal relationship between the president and his friend, his advisor, his donor, his employee is now cracked wide open for all to see.
And I think it's worth reflecting on the fact that this wasn't just, his best friend at some stage. I mean, there was little X, the kid running around in the Oval Office as if it was a playpen in IKEA. They were always on the plane. The mother was there. They practically moved into the White House. Do you think there was genuine love there? Because I think at Trump at one stage said, I've never loved a man as much as I've loved this guy. Or maybe it was Musk, or both.
Yeah, listen, who's to say, but it appears as if there was genuine affection between the two. Acceptance, maybe both as outsiders, both as those who maybe think different. To quote the old Steve Jobs commercial, you had Christmas dinners, and then a political symbiotic relationship that seemed to go hand in hand. Now you're seeing, what were bumps in the roads are now just tectonic shifts, tectonic plates shifting under the ground beneath of both men right now. It is unclear if this can be repaired, though both are notoriously able to turn on a dime. But as it stands now, it is personal, it is ugly, and it is for the world to watch.
And is it going to get worse?
It certainly could. We will see how President Trump has actually chosen a posture of trying to de-escalate the situation, not incur more of Elon's wrath. It seems as if right now Elon is kind of sat on the sidelines, maybe even taking some advice to cool off for a moment. But there are ideological differences around the legislation, around potential subsidies. There are ego differences between the two men, and there are also some financial differences, both in terms of, again, Tesla's bottom line, what Trump, as well as, a suite of government services from Starlink to SpaceX. So this is a complicated situation. It may appear entertaining, but there's some very serious consequences, ramifications from Capitol Hill to the campaign trail.
I could never really work out, speaking to Republicans in America during the election campaign, whether they really liked Elon Musk. And I just wonder what you think and what the polling says. And also, I mean, a lot of the cabinet members who were sitting there, rather kind of mealy-mouthed as Elon Musk was standing up and holding forth, they must be delighted to see the back of him.
Very possibly. Listen, Elon Musk is one of the greatest minds, not just of our generation, maybe of history. An engineer who has brought the future to the now, has been wildly successful in terms of the private sector, and then his approach to government, while maybe amiable and initially welcomed, was disastrous. And the damage he did to institutions, to even the world's poorest people, is beyond shameful. And we're $36 trillion in debt. Minus the Doge cuts, we remain $36 trillion in debt. So as successful as he has been in the private sector is equally as disastrous as he's been in government. Like you said, there are many cabinet officials that butted heads with him and are probably glad to see him go.